Welcome to From All Angles. I am the host and moderator, Jenna Luchinsky. During this program, you will hear America's teenagers discuss and debate major social, political, and economic issues our world faces today and how those issues might be resolved in the future. During this segment of the program, my classmates and I will take an in-depth look at the issues surrounding how social media impacts lives. Social media can impact people physically and mentally, and in a good way or in a bad way. The idea of social media was good until it became an addiction. There are many issues with the addiction of social media. For example, what are the physical and or mental effects, positive, negative, or no effect of using online social networking sites? Does the length of time spent using these websites change the answer to the previous question? More particularly, does this activity reduce or increase stress? If so, how does that happen? Have studies been done to help answer those questions? If so, how were those studies conducted? And what do those studies suggest? We know that most people watching use social media, but how do you know if you are addicted and how it has an impact on you? As you can tell, there are many pros and cons that should be known about using social media. So welcome. Once again, my name is Jenna Luchinsky. I am the host and moderator of this program. I will now ask my panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Mary Telly. I'm a part of the National Honor Society, Future Doctors Club, and Mu Alpha Theta here at Wayne Hills High School. I'm a part of the Analyst Team 1, and my team and I have researched how social media affects long-distance relationships.
My name is Liam Fegan. I'm a junior here at Wayne Hills. I'm in volleyball, National Honor Society, and Wayne Hills Marching Band. I'm a part of Analyst Group 2, and we researched how social media affects politics.
My name is Jasmine Barish. I'm a part of the gymnastics team, the National Honor Society, and the National Honor Society. My team was Analyst Team 3, and we researched how social media is used for good, how it's used for bad, and how companies use their user data.
Hello, my name is Matt Carino. I play lacrosse here at Wayne Hills High School. My group and I researched the first wave of social medias in the 1980s.
Hi, my name is Kate Shin, and I am the part of the National Honor Society, the National Art Honor Society, and the fencing team here at Wayne Hills. My team and I are History in Group 2, and our team researched the history background of the 1990s through the early 2000s.
Hi, I'm Renil Nayak. I'm on the tennis team, and my group researched modern-day social media sites along with the film The Social Network.
Ms. Telly, I know you did research on the impact of social media on long-distance relationships. What were your findings?
Well, according to Alex Wertheim at the New York Times, when people are trying to talk across time zones, some methods might work better than others. So methods such as Facebook and Skype allow people to connect with family members or friends overseas. And there are also people like, a case study would be Alexa Weinbrenick, who uses Facebook to keep in touch with her hometown friends when she went away to college. So basically, it's just a way for everyone to stay connected, so you never really lose touch with the people that are important to you.
Well, along with long distances, social media can also be used to educate the general public on important societal issues occurring at that very moment. And it's a very common place where activists can go to share their views. A good example of that is the Black Lives Matter movement. It was started actually through a hashtag on Twitter. Black Lives Matter has become recognized by the Washington Post as a national civil rights movement because of the way it spread from online to materialize into posts. Social media is being used as a catalyst for activism throughout the world.
And that's pretty interesting because when social media first started in the 80s, it wasn't based around opinions on society. It was more informational based. So people just kind of asked questions, and then anyone was allowed to answer those questions.
As Ms. Tully said that social media is being used for the long-distance relationships, the social media from 1990s through 2000s was the basis of the development of internet and computers, such as Classmates, found by Randy Conrad, which was launched in public in December of 1995. It was a site that has different features, such as friends and profiles, so you can actually contact with your friends and families.
Mr. Nayak, how did your research compare to Mr. Carino's, who was in the 1980s, and Ms. Shin's, who was in the 1990s to the 2000s?
Well, my research is more based around modern-day social media. So, for example, I read about the features of sites such as Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter. While Snapchat's more of an app, it really allows people to connect very instantly through either chat or film.
Mm-hmm.
Along with what Mr. Nayak said, today many people use modern day technology such as Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat to kind of sell themselves in a way so they can build up a name and make them a brand for themselves. I know one case is Maria Shablin. She uses the app called Musical.ly, and she's gained over thousands of followers, and she's become very popular, and she's kind of made a name for herself on that app. So it kind of just builds up someone's career. So now she's kind of known for that rather than a 13-year-old girl who just goes to school.
Ms. Shin, as Ms. Telly was saying about selling themselves, I know you did research on advertising, so how does that compare?
So as the internet grew in the 1990s, people start their own businesses or to sell their own products on social media. There are costs when people buy things off social media, such as like selling clothes, gadgets, shoes, and etc. People who want to buy them would click the link in the seller's bio to go to the site selling the items, and these purchases can range from a few dollars to hundreds of dollars.
Going along with what Mr. Nayak and Ms. Telly said about getting exposure through the social media, this is also a new tactic that politicians have taken up, because with what Mr. Michael Roberts said, political campaigns are on a constant quest to find new ways to harness the power of social media to enhance their popularity. A good example nowadays would be now President Trump, how he really got so much exposure from using Twitter, and it's just a simple tweet. It takes 5 seconds to make, and suddenly his thoughts are known around the country.
That social media platform can also help people who are suffering from things like sexual assault or sexual harassment. As we all know, President Trump was accused of that, and after those allegations came out, people took to Twitter to express what has happened to them and kind of use it as a therapy background. So it really helped them get their story out and kind of ease the pain of everything that had happened.
Going back to what Ms. Barish said about how many people get news from modern day social media sites, that also poses a problem because for sites such as Twitter and Facebook, there is a fake news epidemic going on right now. Publishers from pretty much made up websites really are just publishing stories with no real evidence to back them up, and many people are believing it.
And Ms. Barash, as they talk about the bad effects on social media, what are the good effects?
Well, in a Pew Research poll, it can, from January, 44% of adults said they had learned about the election and current events in the previous week from social media, a lot more than they have cited from print newspapers. So it's become a way for people to get information super quickly.
Now we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we get to see what kids in the halls are saying about social media. Welcome back to From All Angles. I'm your host and moderator, Jenna Luchinsky. Welcome to segment 2 of this program on social media. Thank you for watching. Let me get our viewers up to speed with a recap my panelists' main points in segment 1. Great research and insight into that research. For example, Mr. Nayak outlined the basic purpose of Twitter as a communication tool. Ms. Shin introduced the history of social media from the 1990s through the 2000s, including background on. Mr. Carino delved into the original 1970s chat rooms and bulletin boards and how they became the foundation of today's social media. Ms. Telly introduced the idea of the positive effects of social media, such as communication through military families overseas as a therapeutic tool. Mr. Fegan followed the social media's use throughout politics, such as former President Barack Obama's 2008 campaign and President Trump's 2016 campaign. Finally, Ms. Barish stated that social media can be used to inform public at seconds' notice and educate the public on issues around the world with the click of a button. To open into our second segment, Ms. Pooja Loka interviewed kids in the halls and Wayne Hills staff members to learn their opinions on this controversial topic. Let's start with Ms. Pooja Loka, our Kids in the Halls interviewer, and see what kids in the halls and others had to say. Pooja?
Hi, my name is Pooja Loka. I'll be your Kids in the Hallway interviewer today, and we have Dan Murakami, a junior in high school. Dan, do you feel as though social media is a positive or a negative thing to society?
Overall, I think it's positive, although it has its downsides with what people can do with it. It's allowed people to, I guess, get closer together, especially in situations where it's like not really possible, I guess, where people live far away from each other and stuff.
So, regarding the negative things to society, cyberbullying has been around since the late 70s and 80s when social media first started. Do you feel that this is still an issue today?
I actually think it's become more of an issue since the whole thing with social media is like exploded. It's like almost everyone is using it at this point, and I feel like it's far easier if you actually want to go out and try and like hurt somebody using it. It's far easier to go and do it.
Do you have any solutions maybe as to how we can fix this problem?
I think it's a hard problem to fix. I mean, it's not a thing where if you try and do too much, it starts to become where you're limiting what people are allowed and not allowed to say, and controlling people's speech is not the solution to it, I don't think. But at the same time, if you're saying something blatantly whatever, harmful to someone, then that's not okay either. So I don't know.
Do you think social media poses a threat to mental health of the users?
Maybe not. Maybe in cyberbullying potentially, but overall to mental health in general, I think it's just like any other human interaction, so it can have the same ups and downs.
Do you think that social media poses a threat to national security?
Potentially. Again, it's another one of those situations where it's hard to control people's speech, but we already know that terrorist groups use it to try and recruit. So I think that it can become a matter of national security, but that should be on a case-by-case basis.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Carino, Ms. Shin, since you guys did research on social media in the 1900s, do you think cyberbullying has always been an issue?
Well, cyberbullying's been an issue since the 1970s. One of the major complaints of those who used the social medias back then is that they were being cyberbullied and they could not control it.
Well, I think especially starting from the 90s, since the social medias has been used for communications between people, there has been cyberbullying, harassment, threats, or sexual or inappropriate contents that cause harm to other people and mental illnesses to others. So I think it is a very big problem with social medias these days.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Naik, you did research on current social media. So is cyberbullying still an issue?
Yes, it is actually a very big issue. For example, if you look at President Trump today, he's been going around harassing people left and right on Twitter. And if people such as President Trump, a man with the great power right now, is harassing people, then what does it really spell out for the younger generations which are coming out today?
That goes along with what Mr. Murakami said on the Kids in the Halls interview, that social media has been around for quite some time, and that, yes, cyberbullying has been a problem, but it also has its upsides, like connecting with overseas families. But it's like anything in life. There's good to it and there's bad to it, and you just have to learn how to handle both sides.
Well, to connect the social media with the government, like Mr. Naik was saying, and the cyberbullying, sure, as you guys probably know, most candidates, or all candidates at this point, have their own website where they can post things about when they're going to do their next talk with people and their next campaign thing. So if you can buy out someone's website, like as was done with Ted Cruz's, it can really be a major blow when someone tries to search up your website, they get taken to someone else's website. Like when Hillary did that.
Okay, let's go back to Pooja with the next Kids in the Hall interview.
Thank you, Jenna. I'm here with Ms. Seinhorst, the school psychologist. Ms. Seinhorst, do you believe that social media is negative or positive to society?
Well, I think it depends. I was kind of doing some research and thinking about it. Obviously, there are some positives, and I think the positives are it keeps people connected to the world. Also, it keeps people in touch with, people who live far away versus close by. I think the negatives is that the usage. I think if a lot of times we see a lot of students, a lot of adolescents, kids overusing social media, and that's where the negatives outweigh the positive. And I'm sure you can agree.
The average teen spends 9 hours a day consuming media outside of school and homework. How can this impact a person's behavior mentally and physically?
Well, I think that overusage causes a lot of distractibility. And when you're using it too much, you're more likely to not focus on what's important. And then it can distract you from getting what your priorities should be, which is schoolwork obviously comes first. But I think it has to start from the house in terms of like parents setting limits early on so that, students have the value system that they can not overuse it and not abuse it.
Everyone's brains seemed hardwired around social media. Addiction to likes, retweets, followers, comments, and the like is growing more common. Is there anything to curb the negative impact social media has on an individual's mind?
Like I said before, I think it really has to start with the parental limits. Kids are starting earlier and earlier, having phones, having access to social media. So I think if parents are setting limits early on, having those conversations with kids, and even continuing those conversations with adolescents, they can instill the right value system so they can understand how much is too much or what's the appropriate use so that they're not overusing. But having those conversations is important moving forward so that, they can curb it possibly. I mean, of course, there's going to be outliers in that. We're not in a perfect world, but for the most part, it's has to start from home.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Jenna.
Since the school psychologist said that there were some positive effects of social media, how can it be positive and therapeutic if students spend more than 9 hours a day on social media?
Well, they can find out information that otherwise they would have no access to. Like, they can join movements such as like the Black Lives Matter movement and find out about all sorts of activism and become informed about like their society.
I agree with Miss Barish on that. I think it all depends on how you use the social media. So she said like we can use it for donation or to change someone's life in a positive way. But then if you like teenagers who doesn't have the control, who don't have the ability to control themselves, overuse the social media, I think that's where the problem starts, overusage and overthinking and using it in a bad way to like ruin someone's life. I think that's the negative side of it.
Like Ms. Shin said, yeah, social media has its bad sides, but anything really you have to control. You have to control yourself because you can't let yourself, go over what you need to do in a way. So it's like social media can help you become informed, like Miss Barish said. And when you become informed, you become a part of something. You can open yourself up to new opportunities. And if you're able to inform yourself and make yourself a part of those opportunities, then you should be able to control the amount you use social media.
And how can we fix the negative effects?
I think you can just fix it by realizing that, like everything in life, you need to use it in moderation. People always talk about like food and stuff like that. Social media is the same exact way. Too much of it can lead to negative effects on your body, on your mental health, and people just need to realize that and take charge of their life with usage of social media.
I think if they put like a cost per minute like they did back in the 70s on CompuServe, for example, it was like 13 cents per minute of access during the day. I think less people would spend hours a day on it.
Let's go back to Pooja with the next Kids in the Hall interview. Pooja?
Hi, I'm Pooja, and I'm back with another Kids in the Hallway interview. Today we have Chase Lyons, a senior here at Hills. Chase, do you feel social media is a positive or negative thing in today's society?
I feel social media, for the most part, is a positive thing because I feel as if most people harbor positive ideas, and it gives people a platform to share those ideas. So the kid who 20 years ago, growing up in a poor neighborhood, couldn't share his ideas to many people, now can just hop on a computer and he can share it to millions of people with just the click of the mouse. And I think, for the most part, just for the idea that you can share ideas, like it's like it's nothing is the best part about social media, and I think all the positives because of that aspect outweigh the negatives greatly.
Some of the negatives in social media include cyberbullying, which has been around since the 70s and 80s. Do you still feel that this is an issue today?
I think it may just be because where I live, I think we live in an area where this isn't much of a problem. I think people here are just typically very nice, but I can't speak for the rest of the world, the rest of the country. So I think it still is definitely a problem to a certain degree, but I feel now it's less of a problem than it used to be because I think with all the education we've been given, I mean, since I was in elementary school, we're taught about how bullying is bad and how you have to be considerate of other people. And for the most part, I think, yes, it is still an issue, but I think not nearly as much as it used to be.
What would you say to someone who's being cyberbullied right now?
I think the best thing to do at first is to stand up for yourself. Just tell the person, hey, I don't like that. Just be assertive, and if that doesn't work, if the person keeps harassing you, if it's persistent, to contact someone who can do something, a counselor, a teacher, a parent, anyone who really has authority over that person can resolve that.
Do you feel that social media impacts the mental health of users being cyberbullied?
I think for users that are being cyberbullied, I think it can be a very bad thing in the sense that there's no escape from it almost. Yeah, of course you can turn your phone off, but the phone and the computer are things that they're great educational tools, and I think the second that educational ability is hindered for you by someone who's harassing you, that's when it can become a problem. So I do think it could take a toll on someone if it gets out of hand, but like I said, it is important to be assertive in talking to people who are harassing you, and if that doesn't work, of course you can contact someone who does have authority over that person.
Has social media impacted the privacy of you or anyone you know?
Yes, definitely, because everything you say to your friends, everything you put online, of course it can be deleted, but people can take screenshots, people remember things. So once you say something, if someone sees it, that's there, they're going to remember it. So you do have to be careful with what you post, of course. I've posted things and then deleted them because I said, hey, maybe that's not in the best taste to post. So you do have to be careful. With privacy, you can take screenshots, you can show people. I mean, you can record conversations, but that doesn't happen. You have to be wary of what you say, what you post, because it's harder to erase text conversations than it is to erase vocal conversation.
Thank you for sharing with us, Chase. And now back to you, Jenna.
Thanks, Pooja. From the interview, Ms. Telly, cyberbullying has caused negative effects on users. Do you feel that the connection between people on social media accounts are being used for a positive purpose more than a negative purpose, such as cyberbullying?
I do think that they're being used for more of a positive purpose, like going back to my research with connection with families overseas. That's positive because you get to talk to people that you don't necessarily see every day or talk to every day. And going back to what Miss Barish said about joining platforms such as the Black Lives Matters movement, that is positive because you're helping society and you're making yourself a part of a team in a way. So you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping your community do better and gain more knowledge about what's happening.
Does anyone disagree with that?
I agree with that because another, use of social media for many people is actually using it as like a source to back their own like new products that they're trying to create and things such as that.
Yeah, especially in the modern days, like someone's artwork or their own like fashion or their skills that they can post as like pictures or videos and share with others. I think it is a positive way to use a social media, and it is a great way to start a new revolution in a way.
All right, let's go to the next interview. Pooja?
Thank you, Jenna. I'm here today with Mr. Berkowitz, the sociology teacher here at Hills. Do you believe that social media is positive or negative to society?
I would say it's generally more negative than it is positive. I mean, there are some positives in, being able to stay in touch with people. I know for me personally, being able to stay in touch with people and reconnect with friends and family members who, I may not have been that close with, but you can kind of stay in their lives and know what's going on. But more often than not, I'd say it's negative. I think, we've seen a lot with the misinformation, the fact that, you can spread things like fake news, and that big points and opinions get boiled down into silly memes, and this is how people are getting their information. I think that's a big problem. And, the fact that it just gives people an opportunity to sort of blurt out everything that's on their mind without thinking about what they're saying, filtering things, and then sort of getting an echo chamber response that promotes that. It really doesn't promote deep critical thinking, and I don't think it promotes good dialogue, on top of all the other issues of just everybody being in everybody's business. I'd say overall it's more negative.
The average teen spends 9 hours a day consuming media outside of school and homework. How can this impact a person's behaviors socially?
I think it makes us retreat from people, and because we always feel like we're around people because we're connected to them, we don't actually feel the need to actually go out and connect with people. So it definitely makes us less social. I think it makes us much less comfortable carrying on face-to-face conversations and being in settings where we need something to occupy us, and if there's nothing to occupy us, we kind of don't know what to do. We freak out. So on top of, again, for teenagers, all the pressures that they face, now you have this constant monitoring, this constant need to feel accepted and be connected, and I think really it makes us probably less social than we should be. Instead of going out and doing fun things with people, we're just we're sitting around on our phones, and that's all we do.
Everyone's brains seem hardwired around social media. Addiction to likes, retweets, followers, comments, and the like is growing more common. Is there anything to curb the negative impacts social media has on society?
I don't know that there's a whole lot we can do to curb it. My best hope is that everything becomes so routine that it just becomes boring and people don't see this as a special thing. And, when you're posting stuff and it's getting likes, but hey, everybody's thing's getting 100 likes, 150 likes, well, then what you're doing really isn't that special. And hopefully, as things become more routine and become more normal, it'll sort of become boring and people will look for something else to do. I'm not sure that we can really social engineer ourselves away from this, but hopefully as society just normalizes this and this becomes, hey, it's not just something kids are doing, but your parents and your grandparents are doing it, then all of a sudden, well, for kids, it's like, well, they don't want to do stuff their parents and grandparents are doing. So hopefully they'll start to move on from this.
Do your students study the effects of social media on society, and what do you learn in the course?
In sociology, I think it's a very big underlying thing, because when we're talking about the life cycle, when we're talking about adolescence, when we're talking about human interaction with each other, social media now obviously plays a big role. The fact that, we have kids admitting that, they really can't carry on a face-to-face conversation with each other, that they don't like to talk on the phone and that they just rather text or communicate through DMs and through comments on Instagram and Snapchatting. That certainly goes to interpersonal communication and interpersonal interaction, which is a big part of sociology. I think specifically when we cover adolescence as a phase of life, it's a huge part of every teenager's life. And again, there are positives of it in that it allows us to get to know people we might not normally know, but it also leads to you guys as teenagers being insanely micromanaged and having all of your movements and actions recorded and followed. And I think people are starting to realize there's a tremendous downside to that. And maybe we want to hopefully get back to having a little more personal space and a little more privacy.
Thank you, Mr. Berkowitz. Back to you, Jenna.
Thanks, Pooja. Mr. Carino, did you agree or disagree with what Mr. Berkowitz had said?
Well, for the most part, he seemed to not agree with the uses of social media. He believed that face-to-face interactions were less common, and from what I've seen, I don't really agree with that. I think it's really actually produced more face-to-face interaction because people are meeting new people online, and then, well, sometimes they're meeting up with them, but that leads to predators and all that. So that's a whole new topic.
I agree with what Matt said, and I think that Mr. Berkowitz is incorrect because, if anything, social media has led to this new era of people meeting up and having marches like the Women's March earlier in the year. And that march was the biggest women's march there's ever been, and it just leads to new idea and people meeting up and fighting for what they believe for.
Obviously, there was a lot of downsides to social media, like he said, but pretty much what he said was completely extreme. And like Matt said, there is a bunch of social interaction still. People are not getting less social. They're just social in a different way.
Well, going along with what Mr. Berkowitz said about not feeling the need to censor yourself or having no filter, really, our new president, Donald Trump, when one small secret gets out, he accuses the former president, Barack Obama, of wiretapping, which is an incredible claim that he seemed to pull out of the blue without any real facts behind it. So it can really lead to really problematic catastrophes.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be asking our panelists to analyze and debate social media. You're not going to want to miss this. We'll be right back. If you are just tuning in, I'm the host and moderator from All Angles, Jenna Luchinsky. Our discussion is focused on the impacts of social media on lives. In this segment, we will be asking our panelists to debate their opinions on social media. Get ready, it's going to get heated. Mr. Carino, do you agree or disagree that social media is a good thing?
I believe social media is a good thing because from what I've experienced throughout my years, I have never had a negative effect of social media. I think it's only brought positives out.
Does anyone agree?
I agree with what Mr. Carino is saying because social media is just used as a platform. And on that platform, people can talk about their feelings and become more open. And I think that if they're given the chance to talk about their feelings and talk about what's wrong and what's happening in the world, you really get to connect with other people. You get to form friendships, and it's therapeutical.
Well, Ms. Telly, what you're saying about talking about feelings, they're not always good feelings people are sharing. Cyberbullying has really changed the game with bullying. Before, with our parents, it was you get bullied in school, you can come home and you can relax. But now with cyberbullying, it follows you everywhere. Since the whole world is connected, we have cell phones in our pockets all the time. We have computers in classrooms. You can't really avoid it.
I think that with social media, there's always going to be bad things that will happen. But I think that the good things outweigh the bad things. Such as with cyberbullying, there's always measures you can take to prevent it. You could tell someone, yeah, those things might not be very, effective, but there are definitely things you can do.
Well, what would you tell someone? People have anonymous screen names. I can go in a YouTube comment section and no one uses their real name. Of course, there's not someone actually Adolf Hitler in the comments. It's some random number. There's no accountability.
Yeah, but the thing is, if it really gets that serious, the police can get involved. They can track the IP address. Well, something can happen, if it really does get that serious.
How many real cyberbullying cases have gone to court? How many have been helped by the cops?
Well, they don't really necessarily need to go to court just to find who it is. I understand that people kill themselves over cyberbullying, but there are also people use
That's a joke to you?
No.
Unbelievable.
Oh, okay.
Fight, Mary.
It's not a joke. It's just saying that people can use it also as a platform. They talk about what's happening to them, and other people who have also gone through the same thing could talk about their feelings. And cyberbullying, the people behind the computers doing whatever they're doing are just cowards. At one point, yes, I understand it's serious with suicide and everything, but it could also be for people who are recovering from suicide, so they could talk about what's going on, and that if they ever feel like, they're on a bad path again, they have people on the internet who are going through the same thing as them, and they can connect with those other people.
I think there's a lot more haters, as the kids say, on the internet than really platforms that you could talk to people who have the same
path as you do. If you're getting bullied, there's more places to get bullied than to get help from being bullied.
Well, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of websites online
Like
where
what?
people can go and get reach.
Could you give me an example?
Yeah, Tumblr or Instagram. There are forums where people can go and talk. You can meet online friends, and they might have been through the same thing as you, and you could just talk about it.
I think there's a lot more bad things that come out, like Reddit. There's all these stories of people who have murdered people. There's pictures of dead people on Reddit. There's a stream of someone who murdered someone and then put the pictures on Reddit and said, "Go find them." Someone found it, and they ended up finding a dead body.
Is this funny to
from
you?
just this website? How many good things would outweigh that?
Well, there are always going to be serial killers in the world. There are always going to be murderers in the world. Social media can't end that. Social media can just help people going through rough times.
I feel like we've been controlling this conversation. Would any of you guys
What
like
do you
to
guys
jump
think?
in?
I'd like to add to what Mr. Fegan said. I mean, cyberbullying is not even the worst it gets with social media. I mean, you have groups such as ISIS and white supremacists just trying to rally for their cause on social media, and frankly, that's much worse than cyberbullying.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back for more debating.
Water, Earth's most precious resource. With 75% of the Earth covered in water, many people may not even consider the damage we can deal to the environment by polluting our water. When water is polluted, it becomes undrinkable for humans and a dangerous habitat for the wildlife. If you live near the Pompton Lakes area, you may feel this effect stronger than other members of your community. Recently, after many years of pollution have left a mark on the once beautiful Pompton Lake, cleanup efforts have started in an attempt to recover the lake to its former beauty and make it safe once again. While these efforts have managed to make progress in restoring the lake, they could still use support to ensure that the lake is fully returned to us. That is why many organizations are forming that you can donate to help support the lake. Or you can help by just simply reducing your waste and making sure that none of the waste produced in your home or even your neighborhood ends up dumped in the lake.
Welcome back to From All Angles. I'm your host and moderator, Jenna Luchinsky. We would like to welcome you to our brand new set. Now let's continue with our debate on social media.
Through your research on social media, I know that in our research, we have seen the current effects that social media has, whether it be positive or negative. What do you think? How has it changed? And do you really think that social media was positive back then, or is it positive now? Like, what are the differences, and how would you compare them?
Well, now social media is free, so it's much more accessible to more people, and people such as startups, like business startups, are using it for a good, while groups such as ISIS are using it for recruitment purposes and using it for worse tasks.
So would you say it has a more harmful effect now because people like ISIS, they're getting out, they're able to recruit more people, meaning, they're able to increase in size?
Well, it definitely does have a worse impact than it did back when social media did first start up. But, I mean, it also has a lot more good as well, with more features coming out. It keeps people connected, but, of course, there's always a downside to everything.
Do you think that the downside to social media could somehow be, eliminated? Or do you think that it's like with anything, it's always going to have its good and its bad?
I think it's always going to have its good and its bad. You really just have to find ways to try preventing it, but it's not always going to work out for the social media companies.
But there are so much more positive sides on recruiting on social media, such as the Ice Bucket Challenge, on 2015, was it? It actually made $115 million, and it was donated to the disease that it was promoting for. So I think in recruiting side, there are a lot of more positive sides than negative sides, I believe.
I agree, and it could also get people together to rally protests, like the Women's March that was earlier in the year. It does have, I think, more positive sides than negative sides, like Mr. Nayak said.
Does anyone feel that cyberbullying overpowers all the positive effects?
I don't think it overpowers it. Everything it has both sides. I don't know whether, there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of bad, and they don't, counteract each other. They're both just kind of there.
I feel like it's kind of something that It's like the terms and conditions. Like, yeah, you could do a lot with the site, but then you have to be ready for the downfalls, and it's just something you have to deal with.
And in terms of cyberbullying, I think social media can prevent bullying in real life in reverse, because there are a lot of cases where they prevented suicides because of what they posted on their social media. Like, they attempted that person has a suicidal, I don't know what do you call it, like
like tendencies.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of cases that actually prevented and like advanced.
Well,
like
it could kind of be used as a forum. I think that's what you're trying to say, for people that need help, and they can talk with other people that, you know, are known to help others through those situations, or they can talk to people that have had the same type of story, I guess you could say.
Well, going along with what cyberbullying, what you guys were talking about, I would say that there would be more cyberbullying, more suicides caused by social media, because now when you're bullied, it takes you home, it follows you home. If you text anyone instead of talk to them, anything you text can be screenshotted and sent out to everyone. If anything, I would believe that there are more suicides now that there's social media instead of less.
I agree with Liam. If, like, although you can connect with other people who have the same thoughts, like, mean comments are still being said to people, and it does follow them home, as he said.
Yeah, if anything, I think the internet makes cyberbullying worse than it was before.
But I feel like since it is the internet, you have the power to turn it off. You have the power to delete your account. You have the power to turn off your phone, turn off your computer, just get away from it, because, you know, it's not like it's home with you like a physical person, like, you know, saying all those stuff to you. It's like you have the power to control it. Not control what the other person's saying, but control how you view it and how you react to it.
Well, you can't necessarily control it because people still talk about it. It's still, rumors still fly around. It really disappears even when you're at home. Like, once you go to school again, you're just going to hear people talking about it.
And rumors can spread as fast as possible now, because something like you can just send one text out to somebody or put it on Twitter or something like that, like, hey, this person, and then just like say really mean things about them, and they can go to hundreds of people in minutes. Like, I've seen something like a fight goes on, now that there's social media, within one period, suddenly the whole school knows.
So what do you think we can do to prevent?
Not much. When everyone can do whatever they want with no accountability, there's not much you can do to control people.
So are you saying that we shouldn't be using social media?
I mean, at this point, it's too late to stop it. It's so ingrained in our minds and part of our daily routines. Like, I'm sure everyone here has checked their phone at least 5 times today. So it's too late to pull the plug. Now it's part of our society.
The social media websites do have ways that you can report
exactly.
comments made, but I don't think they're strict enough. So maybe if they got stricter and like studied the posts more, then you could prevent it.
You could also increase the amount of safety taught in schools with people, you know, in your health classes. Just a lot of people know the basis of cyberbullying, but they don't know the true extent to it, of how high suicide rates are among, you know, like the LGBTQ type and community. And I feel like if you increase that teaching, people will learn more and will learn to be more tolerant. It has to do a lot with tolerance, because cyberbullying is based off of intolerance, and that's what they use social media for.
Going back to what Ms. Shin said about how social media could prevent suicides, I think that it probably causes more suicides than it prevents. Because if you go back to cyberbullying, I mean, it's nonstop, and you always hear stories about people killing themselves over things said over the internet.
So I think, in conclusion, what we have to do is improve the social security systems on social media and to prevent bullying, cyberbullying, and
how would we do that? How would we prevent cyberbullying? How would we implement anything to do that?
As Ms. Luchinsky said, to improve like blocking or I don't know.
Kind of make those sites stricter.
Yeah, more stricter and like the law stricter.
There's only so much that can do. People are always gonna cyberbully.
Well, there's always gonna be
they're gonna find a way.
There's always gonna be bad sides on what we have to do. So what we have to do, in now our society, is to improve the laws, and find the ways to make it a better social media.
Well, one of the great parts of social media is you can be whoever you want. No one can stop you if you try to implement laws that could like impose on people's free speech. So, what do you think the line is with that?
I think one of the ways they prevent it these days is that they check your social medias on like job application when you're applying to some jobs. So I think that was a good way to.
I mean, you can spend 5 minutes, create a fake email, and make new accounts whenever you want. There's nothing stopping you.
Well, I just saw like Hillary's email scandals that it can't be forever away, gone.
Yeah, once you post it on the internet, it never really goes away. People take screenshots, and like there's always a history on the internet.
And if it gets that severe, it could be tracked to you, you know? I mean, it's never really anonymous because there are always actions that you could take or, you know, the police can take or whatever to track it down to that person that's sending the hateful comments or doing whatever they're doing online.
But how many of these cases are actually investigated deeply by the police? Unless you have a private investigator, they're going to stay anonymous.
Well, I mean, if you really want to desperately find who is sending these hurtful comments, you would go to that length. If they've really hurt you that bad, I think you would go to that length.
That takes a lot of time and money. I don't know if everyone would be willing to do that.
Well, if it's to like save someone's life, then I think it should be.
Usually you don't do that until it's too late. Usually it's the post-suicide investigation that happens, and then it's like, well, already too late.
Yeah, but then it's not really a problem with social media, it's a problem with police who save it.
Who don't understand social media.
Yeah, but then it's not really the people who use social media's fault. It's the police's fault that they don't understand social media until it's too late.
There's a lot of problems with social media, and no one's helping. We're not teaching people how to...
Then there should be more lessons taught in schools, not only in schools, but in jobs, so people could learn about social media, and they could be prepared with whatever, you know, they're faced with.
You can't really teach human nature. People are just going to be mean because they can.
It's not teaching human nature. It's teaching what happens online and what actions could be taken to prevent it or solve it.
And there will be consequences teaching that.
Yeah, there's always going to be consequences of what we do. So I think this just is like a never-ending debate on whether it can be. So I think the best way to do is like to find ways to make it better. Because what social media gives us is very good, and then there are a lot of things we gain from it. So
and that's why I need to watch what you're posting on the internet, because if you post something, it can come back and haunt you later on in the future.
Yeah, that's the conclusion.
Yeah.
Just always be careful and.
Okay, that concludes our first program of From All Angles, focused on the issues surrounding the impact of social media. If it has had a negative or positive effect on society today. Social media has become an integral part of our lives, as the use of social media has spread to not just connect with others, but also be able to inform the public and people, and spread awareness to other issues. I would like to thank our panel of experts. To the historical experts, thank you for your contributions for providing some helpful information on the history of social media. Thank you to Ms. Loca and the Kids in the Halls participants for providing their insight on what the kids in the halls are saying about the impact of social media. And a big thank you to Mr. Hookstreet and his second period TVP class for giving up their time to film this episode. That seems like all we can fit on this segment for From All Angles. Once again, I'm your host and moderator, Jenna Luchinsky. And this concludes our final program of the show. I hope you enjoyed the program, and thank you for watching.